The Sony PlayStation was released in the fall of 1995 to great success, launching numerous legendary series well into the following year. As the system entered its third year in 1997, it continued to evolve, with such innovations as the introduction of its first analog stick controller. Now that it's all said and done, this was really the last year that a game released for the system could be considered an early PlayStation game. In the previous two installments, we took a look at the best games PlayStation had to offer in 95 and 96. Now, let's do the same for 97, the year that produced some of the system's most legendary titles. You're watching The Legend of Games.
Seven.
Starting out at number 7 is IQ, Intelligent Qube, a puzzle game in which you must eliminate slowly encroaching white cubes, while at the same time avoiding doing so for the black ones. It may sound simple, and yeah, it is, but it's done with so much unexpected style that it is really elevated above so many other puzzle games of the era. For starters, this game has one hell of a soundtrack. It sounds like something you'd hear in an epic RPG being fully orchestrated throughout. Now, get ready to hear me compliment the soundtracks of quite a few games on this list, but this one especially gives the game a feeling like nothing else, and truly makes you want to play on. Of course, a soundtrack alone isn't enough to make a game good. The gameplay is also very fun. It can seem overwhelming at first, but after playing for a while, you start to get into the game's flow, and soon enough, you'll be raking in combos and getting through rounds with ease. The game requires a lot of situational awareness and quick thinking, especially in the later stages, though it generally never feels unfair. When you inevitably fall to your death, you'll more than likely realize the route you should have taken instead. It also has a fun way of keeping score, by giving you your IQ after you fail. I'm not smart. And this is a first-party Sony game that refers to the X button as just that, the X button.
When the cube is about to land on the marked spot, press the X button.
Geez, Sony sure did a good job of enforcing their whole cross thing. I say that with finger quotes, cause, come on, it's X. IQ is possibly the coolest puzzle game on the PlayStation, with a graphical style and soundtrack that truly stand the test of time, as well as gameplay that is both challenging and addictive. It is well worth playing for any fan of the genre.
Six.
Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee, is the first of several very iconic titles that we'll be looking at on this list, as well as the first entry in the Oddworld series. The game tells the story of Abe, a member of a peaceful race of creatures known as Mudokons, who discovers a plot to turn said race into a new food at the very factory he works at. It's up to Abe to escape, and then ultimately rescue his fellow workers. Oddworld was the PlayStation's answer to the previous generation's cinematic platformers, such as Out of This World and Flashback. Well, to a lesser extent, so was 1998's Heart of Darkness, but that game is simply not as good. Oddworld does a great job of carrying on the spirit of the genre, as well as updating it with, at the time, state-of-the-art visuals. Actually, you know what? Despite being low resolution, the game still looks very good. From its very well done cutscenes, to its fluid character animations and overall impressive creature and world design. And it goes beyond that into the sound as well, with a dynamically changing soundtrack and some excellent sound design. With all that combined, you can definitely tell this was done by former Hollywood professionals. Anyway, enough about the presentation. How about the actual gameplay? Well, the main goal of the game is saving the 99 Mudokons at your workplace, Rupture Farms, by leading them to safety in the form of portals, which is optional, but recommended. You do this through the game's clever speech system known as GameSpeak.
Hello, follow me. Okay.
Of course, saving your coworkers is easier said than done. You'll have to get around to guards, bombs, and other various traps.
Oops.
This makes the game fairly tough, requiring quite a bit of trial and error to get through, especially if you want to go the extra mile and save all 99 Mudokons. If you don't like that, well, there's always emulation and save states. Still, despite how hard it can be, it is still an enjoyable experience. Saving the Mudokons is extremely satisfying, as is figuring out the game's puzzles. And let's not forget the game's awesome enemy possession feature. Oddworld was one of the PlayStation titles to help push storytelling in games to new heights, and is very important for that. The game's remake, new and tasty, is also great, but it is different enough from the original to make Abe's Oddysee just as worth playing. Fans of cinematic platformers, awesome showcases of old tech, or just things that are odd, shouldn't miss out on this one.
Five.
Up next is Konami's RPG follow-up to Suikoden, Vandal Hearts. Unlike Suikoden, the game is a strategy RPG, so it plays very differently. However, you'd be forgiven for thinking the two are related, as they both tell the story of a liberation army fighting against a corrupt government. Vandal Hearts, though, is much darker, especially in its storyline and combat. It's one of the few JRPGs I can think of from the era to have an M rating. Speaking of the combat, this game may have the greatest death blow animation in the history of gaming. Oh my god, that is just amazing. It is a little weird when skeletons do it though. The golems shoot out rocks upon dying, so shouldn't the skeletons shoot out bones? Oh well, I'm overthinking it. In a time before Final Fantasy Tactics, this game really was the definitive strategy RPG on the PlayStation. And even with the existence of FF Tactics, the game holds up fairly well on its own. For most of the game, the difficulty is very well done, with the odds often feeling overwhelming, but never impossible. Now, I say most of the game as it does get a bit overly easy towards the end. Still, I guess that's your reward for getting that far. Many battles have unique premises, such as fighting your way off a collapsing bridge or trying to save a possessed town without killing its residents. The variety really helps keep the game from ever getting boring. One thing I've always thought was really cool about Vandal Hearts is how you can choose each character's class progression. The choice you make not only affects their skills, but also how they look throughout the game, and can make separate playthroughs completely different. Since there are no random battles, the game moves at a swift pace, always pushing the story forward. And it's a well-told story with interesting uses of time travel and a likable cast of characters. Until a certain game we will talk about later in this list came out, this was arguably the best RPG story you could get on the PlayStation. It's a short but sweet game, with a whole lot to like about it. If you like strategy RPGs, I strongly encourage you to try out Vandal Hearts.
Four.
You gotta do what? I gotta believe!
One of the first music games ever, Parappa the Rapper takes the number 4 spot. With its unusual gameplay and unique art style, courtesy of Rodney Allen Greenblatt, it definitely stands out among most other games from the era, feeling a lot like what would be an indie game nowadays. Except this was put out by Sony. In the game, you play through multiple levels in which our hero, Parappa, is presented with challenges he must overcome by learning from various masters. To do this, he must challenge them in rap. The structure fittingly feels like an episode of an animated TV show, complete with title cards.
Alright, we're here, just sitting in the car. I want you to show me if you can get far. Step on the gas.
The rapping is simple. Press the buttons in time with the on-screen prompts, but is fun regardless, with some of the catchiest songs you'll hear on the PlayStation.
When I say boom, 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 you say bam, bam, bam. No pause in between. Come on, let's jet.
From Instructor Mussolini's driving rap, to Chop Chop Master Onion's self-defense rap, to the ultimate challenge that is the bathroom rap. Everything is just so fun to listen to, and will more than likely stick with you long after you've played the game.
What you gonna do when they come? I gotta believe. You gotta do what? I gotta believe.
Now, there are a few issues with playing this game in the modern era. Since timing is crucial to rhythm-based gaming, it can be a bit difficult playing on modern HD displays, as the game was simply not made for them. But I honestly didn't have much trouble playing it. The only level that gave me a hard time was Cheep Cheep Chicken, and that one gave me a headache even when the game was new. Still, if this timing difference is noticeable and bothersome to you, luckily, Parappa was remastered for PS4 to be playable on modern TVs, making it one of the few PS1 games to get a legit HD remaster. No, the Insane Trilogy doesn't count. That's a remake. The music and likability of all the characters, along with the extremely fun and well-done presentation, just makes you feel good when playing the game. There are feel-good movies. Well, this is a feel-good game. And with how easy it is to get a hold of compared to some of the other games on this list, you really owe it to yourself to give Parappa the Rapper a try.
You, and you. What's his name? He grew up in this town. Check this out. Come on.
3.
Released a year after the first, Crash Bandicoot 2: Cortex Strikes Back is much more than just a simple rehash. This time around, Crash joins forces with Dr. Cortex, voiced by the ever-so-awesome Clancy Brown, to collect crystals that supposedly can save the world. There's no way that's a trick. Actually, speaking of the voice acting, look at this impressive lip-syncing.
Well, well, well. If it isn't Crash Bandicoot, welcome.
So, yeah, the PlayStation actually could do more than just bobbing heads. Aside from the impressive for-the-time graphics, the game does a great job of improving upon the first Crash in a ton of ways that make it feel a lot more modern in comparison. Gone is the unintuitive save system in favor of one that is much easier to use. Just walk on over and save anytime you want. Now, Crash can do a slide, which can transition into a longer jump when timed right. Oh, and best of all, this is the first Crash game to have analog stick support, leading to, of course, much smoother movement than the first game. It is just an all-around huge leap over Crash 1, which was itself a very good game. It also features another great soundtrack, again by Josh Mansell and Mark Mothersbaugh. There are some really cool boss tunes here, along with the music for the jetpack levels, which is probably the best track in the entire Crash Bandicoot series. These jetpack levels are one of several new gameplay types added in Crash 2, which give the game a lot of variety. If you feel like you've been doing straight up platforming for too long, there's generally something new to do just around the corner, a trait that most good platformers share. And, like the first game, each level has special gems you can unlock, some by completing challenges, some through discovering somewhat cryptic secrets, and some simply by breaking all the boxes. Actually, that may be the biggest improvement here over the first Crash. In Crash 1, if you die, your box progress is forgotten. Here, it remembers everything you did up to the last checkpoint. That is a very, very welcome improvement that really cuts down on a lot of unnecessary frustration. This is just an all-around very polished and well-made game. From its awesome boss battles to its numerous memorable moments, such as this really cool giant polar bear chase, the game is fun to play throughout, and really holds up well to this day. Crash 2 is a good example of sequels done right, and is arguably the high point of the series. For those who like 3D platformers, you can't do much better than this.
Two.
If you thought 2D was dead in the 32-bit generation, Castlevania Symphony of the Night was here to prove to you that it was very much still alive, and in fact, better than ever. A new take on the already established series, Symphony of the Night forewent the series' more linear routes in favor of something much more open-ended. You play as Alucard, son of Dracula, as he infiltrates his father's labyrinthian castle. As you progress, you'll unlock items and abilities to help you reach new areas and defeat new enemies. The game's sense of progression is just so well done. You'll often come across obstacles you can't quite pass, only to later find the exact thing you need to get around it, and you'll be like, now I know what to do. It's the same way with your equipment and enemies as well. Going back to an area with once extremely tough enemies only to now beat all of them in 1 or 2 hits is such a great feeling. One thing that could be viewed as a negative to this game is that you do have to do quite a lot of backtracking, and it is a bit easy to get lost in the game's huge castle, even with a map. But with how much there is to discover, you're likely to find new things you'd missed the first time, such as hidden rooms or items. The number of secrets is amazing, and as you go, you're constantly finding new shortcuts or useful abilities that make said backtracking much less of an annoyance. I also better mention just how awesome the enemies are, not just the bosses, which are quite impressive, but even normal enemies as well all have so much detail. Look at the death animation here. That is so cool. And it's just one of many enemies that all have completely unique animations. And, you know, the game's limited use of 3D is very impressive as well. A lot of obvious effort and care was put into making this game. And skip ahead if you don't know the famous twist of this nearly 25-year-old game and don't want it spoiled, but after finishing everything in the castle and reaching the top, you find out that, actually, there's another castle, effectively doubling the game's length. It may just be an upside-down version of the castle you just finished, but talk about an awesome surprise. And there's enough new items, enemies, traps, and even music that it is quite a different experience. Going through the inverted castle, rediscovering everything, and finally defeating Dracula is such a great feeling. This is a very, very good game. And luckily, like Parappa, it is readily available on modern platforms. With its timeless presentation and gameplay, Symphony of the Night is a must-play for PlayStation fans, and anyone else with the means to play it. Try this game if you haven't already. You won't be disappointed.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
1.
'96's Suikoden was, and is, a fantastic game for fans of RPGs. But it was Final Fantasy VII that transformed the genre from something that was very niche outside of Japan into the massively popular genre it remains to this day, and is one of the PlayStation's defining games. In case you've been in a coma since 1996, the game tells the story of a group of eco-terrorists tracking down the elusive villain Sephiroth in a globe-trotting quest to save the planet, all done with some solid RPG gameplay. Yes, the heroes are terrorists. It was a different time. The game immediately draws you into its world with its cinematic presentation, making you want to play on and on to see where its story goes. And it is a huge story covering 3 discs, with numerous optional moments and secrets, including an entire town with its own subquest. This is certainly one of the most epic games of its time. With its large amount of content and use of full motion video, FF7 gave a strong case for the CD format over cartridges, taking full advantage of the medium in ways that would be imitated for years to come. Seriously, look at the way the world seamlessly transitions from a static background into FMV during certain cinematic scenes. That's a great use of the hardware. And while, yes, the low polygon characters don't look great by today's standards, I'd argue the battles look as good as ever. The player and enemy animations, and especially the summons, hold up incredibly well. Are you really going to say this still doesn't look cool? There's just so much to like about this game. It features a very dark and mysterious world, with a vibe that is very much its own. Even previous Final Fantasy games didn't quite match this game's unusual, yet captivating tone. And of course, there is the game's iconic cast of characters, from its 9-character party lineup to its large cast of memorable supporting characters. Everyone is bound to find at least one that appeals to them. Strangely, my favorite as a kid was Sid, the constantly smoking and swearing middle-aged dude. Since the 3 characters you've chosen for your party are generally the only ones present during story sequences, this actually adds a lot to replay value, with everyone giving unique reactions to the game's events. Actually, what's really cool about the party members is that 2 of them are completely optional. You don't have to recruit Vincent and Yuffie at all. Though, why would you do that? They're great. That's another example of just how much content was put into this game. And after all my soundtrack talk in previous entries, I'd be remiss not to mention FF7's, which is one of the greatest of all time. The game owes a lot of its incredible atmosphere to Nobuo Uematsu's legendary music. It completely adds to the game in making the boss encounters feel even more intimidating, and the emotional story moments feel even more impactful and moving. This is one game you'd better not play on mute. FF7 is an absolute masterpiece. For me, personally, and I bet a lot of others too, this is one game you simply don't want to see end. But when it does, you are treated to one of the most perfect and flat-out beautiful endings in all of gaming, making the long journey incredibly worth it. With its incredible world, music, characters, and atmosphere, it's no wonder the game has had such a long-lasting appeal. Final Fantasy VII was a must-play game upon its release. It revolutionized its respective genre, and really gaming in general, and is one of the most influential games of all time. It is an unforgettable experience, an incredibly important milestone in gaming, and it is the best PlayStation game of 1997.
And that about wraps things up. The top 7 PlayStation games released in North America in 1997. Tune in to The Legend of Games next time when we'll take a look at the top 7 of 1998, a year that is often regarded as being one of the best ever for gaming. Thanks for watching.